One of these old days. One of these old days. And we walk.
What's up, everyone? Coming back at you for episode 41 of Transitions from War. I'm your host, Mike. And as always, we are talking about reconnecting to mind, body, and spirit. And today, I'm stoked. I'm really stoked. Finally, we get my number one main sponsor, Cowboy Crickets, on the show. We're going to be talking to James Rolin. Really cool dude. And both James and Kathy have helped me throughout my very brief but very exciting triathlon career. And what I love the most about what they are doing is they're taking real steps to change the world. They saw a problem and they said, hey, let's try to fix it. Just like we talked about last week with Stephanie Lincoln from Fireteam Whiskey, James and Kathy have been at this for a while now. And they didn't want to just settle and say, hey, hopefully someone else takes care of this. So anyways, they are our sponsor for the show today. Go to cowboycrickets.com, check out their 100% cricket powder, their chocolate chirp cookies, their smoky jumpers, whole roasted crickets. It's some good stuff. And just remember, put in the promo code VETS, V-E-T-S. And some people were asking, do you have to be a vet to use this promo code? No. But know that if you use that promo code, you are supporting vets, specifically James and Kathy Rolin, and me, supporting this show. So thank you to everyone. Make a New Year's resolution for yourself to eat more bugs. That's what I'm going to do. So you will be seeing that as we go along. I think you guys are really going to like this episode. The audio cuts in and out a couple times, but what are you going to do? We got the gist of what we're talking about. I'm still trying to figure out this technology. Hey, I'm a Marine. I'm doing the best I can. I wasn't allowed to touch equipment like this. Anyways, to the episode. James, what's up, man? It's awesome to have you on the podcast finally, after we've been talking about it for a while, and we've known each other for a couple of years, and you've been helping me get through my Ironman triathlons and other endurance challenges with your delicious crickets, which I'm actually drinking this morning, combined with a little collagen fuel from Primal Endurance.
Nice. We got to get you one of the mixers with the cricket logo on it. I think we got one of those with your name on it sitting on a shelf.
That's what I definitely need. Yeah, I'm tired of looking at these other brands, but yeah, man. So you are the co-founder, co-owner of Cowboy Crickets. What's your title exactly?
Now it's Chief Operations Officer. So moving over to the operations side, it was before that, but we've actually hired on another person. In fact, he's a partner in the company now. So we're really excited about that. He's an Air Force vet as well. So, keeping the whole veteran thing going, and excited to have Matt on board.
Yeah, that's really cool. So both you and Kathy are Coast Guard vets, and you're currently Montana National Guard, right?
Correct. Yeah, I was a machinery technician in the Coast Guard, and right now I'm just about to finish OCS. I actually leave in February for the last two sections of that, and I'll be commissioning as a medical services officer. Oh,
that's cool. That's really cool. So wait, so for OCS, have you've been doing that like in a staggered format? Like,
yeah, the National Guard has a really goofy system. So their quote unquote traditional path is 2 weeks and then a year of drill weekends for phase 2 and then another 3 weeks. But our class got down to 2 people, and so we couldn't exactly do a whole class. So we're going through phase 2 and 3 accelerated.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen a similar thing with the Marine Corps. Some people would break it up into a couple different summers at once, but so not totally out of the box. But so tell me about how you guys came to form Cowboy Crickets.
Well, it was really Kathy's idea. I mean, she's the brains behind this whole thing. I'm just a pretty face that makes everything happen. on the public side. But every year at Montana State University here in Bozeman, they have the bug buffet. And a few years ago, she ended up going to it, and this was the first we had heard about it. And she came back and brought me this idea. And it's like, hey, people want this. People are excited about it. We need it. We're running out of resources on the planet. We can do something about this. I looked at her and said, you're crazy. I'm not doing this. There's no market.
Yeah,
right?
Eating
There's
bugs.
only, who eats bugs? There's only like 2 markets. You have, as far as the U.S. market goes, right? You have people who are tourists, and they're going over to, Thailand or China or something, and that's why they're doing it. Or you're going through SEER school.
Yeah,
full
right.
stop. You have 2 reasons. No one does this. And of course, as usual, I was wrong and she was right. And she said, no, just look into it, figure it out. So instead of an hour to prove her wrong, it ended up being several months of research. And she was right. There's actually a huge market, and it's growing. It is niche, but it's growing. And we've been able to take a pretty good chunk of that market in the U.S. so far.
It's interesting. I've seen people I think even Warren Buffett invested in companies that, harvest or raise crickets for human consumption. Because I remember, well, I'll back up for a second. You're right. It's a niche market, but it seems like the people who are into it are 110% into it and just excited about the idea of something sustainable and something that can be done, something we can actually do to help and be part of the solution. I remember I was looking before we connected just into the idea, and I first looked at another company, I think that was making cricket protein products out of New York, but then I saw your company. And I saw you guys were veteran owned, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. So I connected with you. And I remember, I think this was probably maybe the beginning of 2017 when I was doing my push into my first full Ironman.
Yeah.
Then we started talking about, what my mission was, what your mission was. And then that's where we started it. But yeah, I think I tasted crickets maybe as like a gag gift, like you see them like chocolate covered ones at like candy stores.
Yeah. That's all that most people, if they have had them, that's why it was, it was a dare. It was a gag gift, something like that. Not an actual serious food item. And that mentality is changing though.
How do you talk people into it? What's the sell and how does someone go from hell no, that's disgusting, that's a bug, to being a customer or someone who says, oh yeah, this makes sense for my nutrition plan?
There's really kind of 2 parts to it, and it all comes down to normalizing, right? So there's many things that we eat every day that if you actually think about it are pretty gross.
Yeah.
I ask people a lot of times who here, has eaten insects recently. And surprisingly, every time I do this, the number of hands is bigger. So I guess, who here loves to eat slimy raw fish sushi? Who likes to eat sushi? And almost everyone raises their hand. Well, before 1971, no one in North America ate sushi and sashimi because it just didn't exist here. It wasn't until a Canadian chef actually brought it over, and then rock stars started eating it, that it became mainstream. And it took a few years. But now in downtown Bozeman, Montana, we have 3 sushi places. So, we're like the least. If someone were to think about sushi, no one thinks Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah.
So of your social norms, it's just that they have now become acceptable. And the second part is creating something that people easily identify with. So if you give someone a whole roasted cricket, they probably aren't going to eat it. If you give them the powder, they might not know what to do with it. But if you give them a delicious chocolate chip cookie, suddenly they just see it's a harmless chocolate chip cookie. I can't tell that there's anything else in it, even though there's 30 crickets worth of powder. And once they try that and realize they didn't die, then they're willing to kind of explore a little bit more.
Right. That makes complete sense. And I don't know if you mentioned it, but the other thing that someone mentioned to me, it made complete sense. And they're like, well, we eat lobsters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, I mean, and it's pretty much the same thing. It's just a bug that's underwater. And if you think about that, like eating a lobster, it only makes sense because we've done it. We do it. But if it was a new thing and someone just pulled a lobster out of the ocean and was looking at it, that's probably more disgusting, like sounding or looking than, a cricket.
Yeah. Well, they got those big old claws and stuff, they could actually hurt you. Whereas a cricket's not going to do anything but hop away. And, not only that, but that's another great example of social stigmas around food changing. Because, 100 years ago, you knew that someone was destitute, was just beyond poverty if they had lobster shells on their floor because it wasn't suitable for prisoners. The only people that ate lobsters were those that didn't have a choice. And now it's the complete opposite, right? We would never feed lobsters to prisoners, not because it's horrible, but because they don't deserve that, is what most people would say, right? And so, yeah, the mentality has switched from, oh no, it's not good enough for anyone, to now, no one is good enough for it. And you have to be someone special to be able to afford lobster.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that, but that makes sense. And what I do know is that I know that happens with different cuts of beef. When it goes from like just any of the different cuts of beef come out of fashion, and they're either for poor people or they're the select cuts you're going to find in a nice steakhouse. So that part makes sense to me then. So how do you guys go from, okay, this is a cool idea that was at the bug buffet, to getting crickets, raising them, harvesting them, and then selling them?
It was a big learning curve. So we're a little over 2 years into the business now, and it took us about 1.5 years to figure it out on our own, and the other half a year to figure it out for everyone else. So we're still just getting this thing figured out. We started by watching YouTube videos, and specifically we found some of the Mike Rowe videos, Dirty Jobs.
Oh, yeah.
One where he goes to a cricket farm. And so we got all of our base information off of that. And we found an entomologist in the area who also helped us with more technical stuff. And then we just made a lot of mistakes. And as we started to learn it, we made our own videos, which is how we've actually found most of our partner farmers, is they find us on YouTube.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, the power of YouTube right there. That's pretty neat. Because yeah, I remember it now. Like I think was it November of 2016? Maybe. Like I emailed you, and your website had just launched. Mm-hmm. Or I think I might have been one of the earlier customers to try to buy something on the store.
Yeah, you were definitely in the first 100. You might have been within the first dozen, though. I mean, it was nice. We were there pretty early. I'd have to look through our sales records to confirm that. But
that was pretty cool timing. So you guys, you watch the YouTube videos, you kind of start figuring it out, and then, I mean, what kind of equipment were you guys buying to get these crickets in there? We bought
the correct equipment, but we bought it at the wrong time. A lot of it. Hell, we bought the crickets at the wrong time. We figured out there's breeding cycles, and having all of one age doesn't make sense. You have to kind of spread it out so that you aren't just working for a week straight and then doing nothing for 6 weeks. 12-foot wooden racks in our commercial unit that we were renting, and a bunch of humidifiers and fans and hundreds of plastic bins. And eventually we got them all filled, but it did take a while. We had inventory just sitting there. We bought a few different kinds of watering systems as we figured out what does and doesn't work and what's the most simplistic way to do this. And then we bought a bunch of kitchen equipment. And the concept was easy. We had a little room. It should have been all fine until we found out that the zoning on our lot was wrong. And so we couldn't have a kitchen there. And so they wanted us to build another building, and then they wanted us to all to be in one building, but it had to be the other building. It was just this year-long battle by moving from building to building until they were happy with the combination we'd come up with. It's all resolved now, but that cost us, we almost lost the business several times because of that, just because we were having to put so much time and money into switching around equipment. But we also learned a lot. now we have this large commercial kitchen with, $100,000 of equipment in it, and we know how to run it efficiently and effectively, and the licensing protocols and all of that. So the next time that we go to do this on a bigger scale in a couple of years, we shouldn't have quite the same issue.
There's always those unseen things going forward in something new that you can't really predict. And then you just have to figure out in the moment how it goes. That's probably where a lot of people are just like hesitant to even try. But you guys weathered a few storms. What's the thing that's kept you going when the times have been hard?
I mean, we've definitely thought about it a lot. Your mind goes to all sorts of places when you're in desperate need, desperate times. And we've lost a business before. We've gone through bankruptcy once, and it was horrible. During that time, our family didn't really eat much. We made sure our kids ate, mostly through donations from friends and family, but we didn't actually have much. Hell of a weight plan, though. If you want to lose weight, just become so poor you can't afford food. Bam, problem solved. So we've gone through that, and we want to prevent other people all around the world from having to do that. And so for us, it's not just a financial motivation. Actually, it simply can't be a financial motivation because we've never taken a paycheck. But I'm hoping that changes in the next few months. We've got some really fun growth coming up that should allow that. But more importantly, we want to really see this mission through. We want to make sure that people don't have to worry about their food, that future generations don't have to worry about the resources that we are consuming as a population, and that they will be able to eat not just to get by, but to actually thrive. So that's our motivation.
Yeah, that's really cool. Let's talk about the sustainability of crickets and I guess insects in general, and also some of the different health aspects, the vitamin and the nutrients that you're getting. Well, and we're in Montana, so we like to compare everything to beef. We have a lot of cows here. Happy cows do not come from California. They come from Montana. You should see these things. These are some beautiful bovine, but it makes for an easy comparison. So pound for pound compared to beef, crickets use 2,060 times less water, 14 times less feed, produce 80 times less methane, do all of that using less than 1% of the comparable landmass. And that's to get twice as much iron. 2,060 times less water. Correct. So to produce a pound of cricket compared to a pound of beef, the amount of water input is 2,060 times different. Wow. Yeah, that's staggering. Yeah. It's a huge difference. And that's why we don't need to move the needle very much. I'm not asking anyone to give up beef. I'm saying to add an option to your diet, even if it's just as a snack food or as an ingredient, because we don't have to change very much. If we change 1% of beef production, we've affected 2,000 times that same displacement just in water. So it's easy to make a big change. Yeah, so it's an exponential change there. So that's interesting because I guess being a Marine, I have this black and white thinking. It either has to be all of this or all of this, all or none, And so that's interesting you say that even if it was just a snack food or something that you added as an ingredient from time to time that would cut out, like a whey protein source or any kind of beef product, that would make a huge impact on the environment in general. Yeah, it would. And it makes a huge impact on your health. So let's talk about that. And in what ways are crickets a healthy option? And what do they have in them that makes them healthy? So same thing, pound for pound compared to beef. They have twice as much protein, twice as much iron, 45 times as much omega-3. And on top of that, there's a whole bunch of other micronutrients that they have. It's a complete protein because it's animal protein. And I think perhaps the most interesting health benefit isn't actually a statistic. It's a philosophy in that we have a lot of vegans and vegetarians that eat our products, and crickets are animals, but environmental and lack of environmental impact and the health, it identifies well with those populations, and they're able to still get the nutrition that they need. I've seen the term ento-vegan thrown out there. And and I specifically following a guy on Instagram who talks about that's the protein source or animal protein source he's consuming. Because you're right, that the philosophy of it, just we identify or can empathize more with a mammal or any other kind of invertebrate, but probably less so with an insect. And then just knowing too that you probably know the statistics maybe of like how many insects or bugs there are per like square foot in the earth compared to any kind of other animal.
I mean, I would have to look up that exact statistic, but it's going to be more. I know that.
Yeah. Especially if you're down in the South. I remember Camp Lejeune, especially North Carolina.
Yeah.
Bugs everywhere. I remember coming out of a land nav course and I had, at first I wasn't counting, but then I think at most I counted like 29 ticks on me that I pulled off. But I don't think we've gotten into eating ticks yet. So we'll stick with crickets.
Yeah. I don't recommend going to ticks. There is a way to do it, but let's just ease into it.
Let's ease into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Camp Lejeune though is a cool place. I remember I was there because the Coast Guard has their special missions training center.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which was always funny because the Coast Guard has shiny rinks. And so anytime we'd walk around, everyone thought we were officers. Yeah, exactly. We'd have like every freaking Marine private on base, you whole platoon stand up and salute you. And they're like, I don't know what to call you, but hello, sir. So.
That's the best. Yeah. I remember seeing that. And then you always see them salute and then they take a closer look, and they get pissed. They're like, oh, wait a second. It's like it's like a petty officer or like,
Yeah. Yeah. But they saw something shiny. So,
Yeah. It's almost like throwing a lure in, a shiny lure in for bass. They see something shiny and go for it right away.
So I went through our, it's called PSU Basic there, and it was right next to the non-infantry Marines. I can't remember what it's called. You have like the infantry school and the School of Infantry, something like that.
Oh yeah. MCT. Yeah.
Okay.
Marine Combat Training.
That's the 3-week one.
Yeah.
Cool. So we were running the same course as them, but we stayed in a hotel for 2 of the weeks.
Very nice.
And we were only in cots for 1 of the weeks, and a little bit of our weaponry training was different because we didn't have to clear so many houses. We had a little bit of like boat type stuff as well. But that was a fun time there. The map though of the base is crazy because 2/3 of that county is Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
And they are shooting artillery over their housing, which is the most Marine Corps thing I can imagine.
Yeah, right. Hope just every time an RD round goes off, hoping it's not a short round.
Exactly, because you're just going to take out whole families. And they're like, nope, that's what they signed up for. So,
yeah, that whole town, revolves around the base. There's like probably a lot of military towns that have the same kind of pattern. As soon as you get off base, it's like strip club, dry cleaners, used car lot.
Yeah.
And then
tattoo parlor.
Yeah. Tattoo parlor. Exactly. Yeah. The fourth pillar.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a little while. How'd you come to join the Coast Guard?
So I'm originally from Long Beach, California. My wife's from Michigan. So Michigan, a lot of people don't think of it as a coastal place, but the Great Lakes are the fourth coast. There's actually an enormous amount of waterways up there. But originally from Southern California. So, I grew up surfing in Huntington Beach and, going to Malibu to go drive or to surf. And I just loved the ocean. Originally, I was going to go into the Air Force as a PTAC. I was super excited to go in and guide in people with those small teams. But a friend of my dad's was a reservist in the Coast Guard at the unit that I ended up going to. And he showed me around and, all the high speed stuff they were doing there that no one seemed to know about. And I thought that was keep surfing, keep working on my cars and just do the whole 1 week in a month thing and go shoot shit. So it was a great time. I love that unit. That was the MSST in Long Beach. And we had some amazing high-speed training. We had some really important stuff that we did. They were all short-term missions, sometimes hours in length, no like deployments for months and months.
Yeah.
There was, a quote unquote deployment that my wife went on was to Hawaii for 2 weeks. So
that's very cool.
Yeah. And, there's so much stuff happening stateside and in important ports all around the world that people don't know about because it never reaches the news. And there's a few, interesting small units that make sure it doesn't reach the news. And ours was one of those. So we had some really fun times.
What was your MOS and what were you guys doing? Like what does it involve for us non-Coast Guard people who don't understand?
So I was a MK, which is a machinery technician. So as a petty officer, I could be in charge of small teams, but everyone at that unit was a petty officer, so I wasn't in charge of anyone. What we actually did, I didn't do anything mechanical while I was there. They trained me as a mechanic for like diesels and outboard engines and stuff. I changed a trailer hitch once. I checked oil a few times. That's the most mechanical stuff I did. What we actually did was law enforcement. And so it would be drug interdiction, migrant interdiction, a little bit of those, but most of what our unit handled was larger threats, like the cargo ships. They have to report to the port pilot. And so this other guy comes on board and actually steers the vessel in. Well, sometimes they wouldn't report to him or they wouldn't respond at all. And that's not a good choice to make. That's a poor life decision because you are going to find out very quickly how fast helicopters move and boats for that matter. And so we'd go and basically take the vessel and figure out why they aren't reporting to us. Usually it's because they just didn't want to. There's nothing. But every now and then you find out, they have something on board they're not supposed to, or they have people on board they're not supposed to. So it's just responding to threats.
And the threat exists. I know that the Los Angeles and Long Beach ports there, well, the biggest in our country, if not closest to the world, a terrorist attack there or any kind of waterborne attack could really cripple our economy or our life in general. So it seems like it's kind of an unknown vulnerability. So yeah, you're right that people don't really know about.
Yeah. All it would take is one ship placed right in the LA Long Beach channel going into the harbor there. One ship placed in the right position, you shut down that place for months, not to mention all the rest of the damage it would do, depending on how the ship was destroyed and what it was full of. But yeah, you could cripple the U.S. economy or at least put a heck of a damper in it. I mean, it would send us through probably another recession if you did it correctly. And so it's a very big target to keep safe. And, that's why there's so many law enforcement agencies.
How can people support you guys other than simply just buying products? What else can people do to support you guys, keep in touch and keep up to date with what you guys are up to?
Well, we always appreciate the support on social media or joining our email listing. But I think at the end of the day, you are an excellent example of the best kind of support that we can get, which is just getting people to talk about it. I don't know how many people I've met all over the country when we've traveled that know about Mike Ergo and his bugs. And
that's hilarious. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you pop up all over the place. And so that does so much for us, not just from marketing and sales, but also legitimacy. People don't see us as a fringe thing. They oftentimes still are curious and a little cautious, but once they actually get to talk to us, they've already been primed, right? Someone that they trust has already told them about it. And we've seen that a lot. So really what we need is dialogue. And the best support that we can possibly have is just to get people talking.
That's true. I think it was such great timing that I ended up getting to Kona that year when we first connected.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And like you pointed out, I got to be the first cricket field athlete to complete Kona. That was pretty neat. But I think that as people see that, you're right. It's not just a gag. It's not a joke. This is really something that's going to be the future. And not just the future. It's been something that humans have been eating all over the planet for centuries, for thousands of years. It's just a little bit newer to, the US and Canada, perhaps.
Yeah. 80% of cultures around the world eat insects. We're the odd ones, really.
Yeah. So we're getting on board.
Thank you so much for having me on. We love supporting not just this podcast, but really, all things veteran. And, we'd love to get support, of course, from your listeners as well. You can find us at cowboycrickets.com. If you search on Amazon for Cricket Cookie, you'll find us there. We've got a few different products on there. We're all over social media at Cowboy Crickets and hashtag Crickets Are Food. If anyone has a little coffee shop or a store, especially if it's veteran owned, we would love to get our products into there as well. And we're always looking for new athletes to help support as well. Our superhumans, as you know very well, Mike, are the way that we talk to people and really show consumers how powerful of a product this can be. So I guess that's all I got, man. Thank you so much for having me on. So, Semper Fi, Semper Par, and kill bodies.
We did it. What do you guys think? You inspired to eat more bugs? Of course you are. Anyways, thanks again to James and Kathy. I've had a great time interacting with them, and it was really cool to dive deep and hear more about James and his background on the Coast Guard, and really just why they do what they do. And like you guys heard, it's more than a gag. It's more than a joke. It's something that we can all do to get healthier, support the environment. I don't know, just be a badass. So go ahead and check out cowboycrickets.com, promo code VETS. Check out that cricket powder, chocolate chip cookies. Those are good. I'll tell you what, my grandma might be the biggest fan. She orders boxes of those things, and her and a couple of my uncles sit around and eat them. So if I can get my grandma on board with crickets, I think you guys can be convinced to try it out. All right then, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are ready to jump into 2019 like I am. We got some exciting stuff coming up. I always say that. We got some exciting stuff coming up. But no, this is real. We got some really cool stuff coming up. In case you haven't heard, Iron Man and I have created a national initiative called the Gold Star Initiative, and we will be recruiting veteran athletes. That's right, veterans who run triathlon or want to get into it, to carry a flag for a Gold Star family at half Ironman races across the country, starting this year in California. So we will be looking for athletes. Oceanside, that race is coming up in April, so if you haven't registered for that, probably too late. We'll have the official application up on the Ironman website coming out pretty soon. If you're interested, hit me up. We're also looking for an veteran athlete to race in Super Frog 70.3, and that's down in Imperial Beach, San Diego, September 23rd-ish. It's later in September. Anyways, if you're interested, you said, hey, this is me, you want to be part of it, hit me up. All right, everyone. Until then, drink water, meditate, kill bodies.
Kill bodies. Is that's what you guys say, right, at the end?